Everyone wants to be happy. But what does true happiness really mean? For St. Thomas Aquinas, the answer begins with virtue. Today, happiness is often reduced to pleasure, success, or comfort. But Aquinas teaches that real happiness is about living well as a human being. To understand this, imagine training to become a pianist. You must learn notes, finger placement, and practice for years to gain mastery. Beyond skills, you need habits, discipline, and even a kind of character, a musical virtue that shapes you. Few of us will be professional pianists, but the same principle applies to any great pursuit, sports, science, medicine, or parenthood. To succeed in life's higher goals, you need more than talent. You need stable habits, what Aquinas calls virtues. Virtues are firm dispositions of the soul. They enable us to act well with ease and joy, not by force, but by freedom. This is why Aquinas insists, virtue is the path to happiness, because without virtue life loses direction. But what is happiness itself? For Aquinas, following Aristotle, happiness is not just a feeling. It is an activity, a way of life. Happiness means achieving the true good of human nature, living in harmony with reason and truth. This also means morality is not about rules alone. For Aquinas, morality is about the pursuit of true happiness, organizing life toward the ultimate good. Rules protect us, yes, but they are not the essence of morality. The heart of morality is flourishing in what is truly good. And here virtue becomes essential. Virtue strengthens our mind, will, and passions so that we can move freely toward the good. Aquinas distinguishes three kinds of virtues: intellectual, moral, and theological. Each perfects us in a different dimension. Intellectual virtues sharpen reason. Moral virtues shape our desires. Theological virtues lift us to God Himself. Together, they form a life of integrity. Virtue unites thought, action, and love, guiding us toward our highest destiny. But what about our struggles inside? We often desire things we know are wrong. Our passions rebel against reason. Aquinas says this disorder comes from the fall. Human beings inherit wounded desires and a blindness to the true good. The drama of moral life, then, is to clear away the fog of error and acquire the virtues that restore harmony. Virtue tames our passions, strengthens our reason, and orients our whole being toward the good. But what is the final good we seek? What is the ultimate purpose of life? Aquinas insists we must know the target. Like an archer aiming at a mark, we cannot live well unless we know our goal. Our life must be oriented to a final end. People often seek happiness in money, power, or pleasure. But Aquinas carefully examines these options and finds them all insufficient. Wealth may bring comfort, but it cannot satisfy the heart. Pleasure is fleeting, power unstable, fame fragile. None of these can be our ultimate goal. True happiness must be lasting and complete, fulfilling every desire of the human soul. So what alone can satisfy? Aquinas answers, only God. Only the infinite good silences every desire. Union with God is the final end of man. Every other good is relative. Only God is the perfect and eternal happiness. In this life we can begin to taste it by living virtuously and walking with God in grace, but its fullness awaits us in heaven. There we shall see God face to face, possessing and enjoying Him forever. This is perfect happiness, eternal beatitude. And so, for Aquinas, the moral life is clear: to live virtuously now, so we may reach eternal happiness in God. This vision changes everything. Morality is not a burden of rules, it is the roadmap to happiness. And virtues are the habits that form our character, so that choosing the good becomes natural, joyful, and even delightful. Without virtue, even if we know the good, we struggle to choose it. We are pulled in different directions by disordered passions. But with virtue, our passions follow reason, our will delights in truth, and our actions align with God's design. Take courage, for example. A courageous person does not feel no fear. He feels fear but acts rightly despite it. Now think of temperance. It does not mean rejecting pleasure, but ordering desires so that pleasure serves the good. Justice, too, is a virtue. It gives each person what is due, making community and friendship possible. These moral virtues stabilize our desires, but they need guidance. That guidance is prudence, the charioteer of the virtues. Prudence applies reason to action. It judges what is best here and now and directs the other virtues toward their goal. Without prudence, courage becomes recklessness, temperance becomes rigidity, and justice may become harshness. With prudence, however, all the virtues are harmonized. The moral life becomes a symphony ordered by wisdom toward the good. But Aquinas also insists on the theological virtues, faith, hope, and charity. Without them, we cannot reach our final end. Faith enlightens reason with divine truth. Hope sustains us on the journey. Charity unites us with God in love. These virtues are not acquired by practice alone. They are infused by God's grace, lifting us to a supernatural life. Thus, the moral life has two levels. On the natural level, we cultivate habits. On the supernatural level, God infuses grace. Together, they form one path, our effort joined to God's gift, leading us toward perfect happiness. Still, Aquinas knows the journey is not easy. Our passions resist, and the world offers false images of happiness. We are tempted to believe that wealth, pleasure, or honor will fulfill us, but sooner or later they disappoint. The soul is made for more. It longs for the infinite. Only God can fill the human heart. This is why living without God leaves us restless. St. Augustine said, "Our hearts are restless until they rest in you, O Lord." Aquinas agrees. Virtue prepares us to rest in God and to enjoy even now a foretaste of true happiness. But this raises a challenge. How do we know what is truly good and not be deceived by false goods? Here again, prudence is crucial. It clears confusion, helping us see reality as it truly is. The prudent person does not chase illusions. He directs his life toward what truly matters: virtue, holiness, union with God. This is why moral education matters. We must form habits of truth and love early, so that choosing the good becomes natural. For Aquinas, education is not just about facts. It is about shaping the soul, forming a person capable of true happiness. And this formation is lifelong. We never stop growing in virtue as long as we walk with God. Even saints continued striving. Virtue is not perfectionism, but steady progress toward the good. Every act of patience, honesty, or courage strengthens the soul, making happiness more secure. And every act against virtue weakens the soul, making happiness more fragile. This is why habits matter so much. We do not become virtuous in a single act, but by repetition, until goodness becomes second nature. Virtue is freedom. It frees us from slavery to passion and gives us the power to act according to reason. In this sense, the virtuous person is not repressed. He is liberated, able to pursue the good with joy and creativity. But Aquinas warns, if we aim at the wrong goals, our virtues can be misdirected. We must always orient them to the final end. The final end, as we saw, is God Himself. Union with Him is perfect happiness. Without this, even virtue falls short. Imagine an archer who never chooses a target. He may shoot arrows skillfully, but he will never hit the mark. So too with life, virtues must be ordered to the highest goal, to God, who gives all things their meaning. This is why Aquinas distinguishes imperfect happiness on earth from perfect happiness in heaven. The first is real but incomplete. On earth we grow in virtue, taste the joy of friendship with God, and live with meaning and peace. But this happiness is fragile. Suffering, sin, and death remind us that fullness lies beyond this life. Perfect happiness, or beatitude, is found only in the vision of God face to face, where no good is lacking. Still, the journey begins here. Virtue prepares us for heaven, forming our souls for eternal joy. And this makes every choice significant. Each decision for good is a step toward beatitude. Conversely, each decision against virtue turns us from the path, leading toward frustration and unhappiness. This is why sin is so destructive. It is not only disobedience to God, but self-sabotage of our own happiness. Sin blinds the mind, disorders the will, and enslaves the passions. It leads to restlessness and emptiness. Virtue, by contrast, restores harmony. It clears the mind, strengthens the will, and calms the passions under reason. Virtue is not against desire. It perfects desire, teaching us to love what is truly good. And in loving what is truly good, we discover joy, not shallow pleasure, but deep fulfillment. This is why Aquinas calls virtue a second nature. It reshapes us from within, so that holiness becomes spontaneous. Think of a musician who plays effortlessly, or an athlete who moves with grace. So too, the virtuous person lives goodness with ease. Virtue does not eliminate struggle, but it makes the path lighter because the soul is rightly trained. This training involves effort, but above all, it involves grace. We are not alone in this journey. God infuses virtues within us, especially the theological virtues which surpass human effort. Faith opens the mind to God's truth. Hope anchors the will in God's promises. Charity unites us with God Himself. These virtues are supernatural. They orient us directly to God, who is our final happiness. Thus, the moral life is both human and divine. Human because it involves habits and discipline. Divine because it depends on grace. When we cooperate with grace, virtue grows stronger and happiness becomes more secure. But without grace, our striving is limited. We may gain earthly success, but not eternal fulfillment. This is why Aquinas insists, virtue is the path to happiness, but grace is the key to perfection. So what does this mean for us today? It means happiness is not luck or chance. It is the fruit of virtue, grown with God's help. Every small act of honesty, patience, or courage is training the soul for joy, for the life of beatitude. Every prayer, every sacrifice, every work of love deepens virtue, anchoring us in God who is our end. Aquinas reminds us, the good life is not about comfort, it is about growth in holiness, and holiness is true freedom. This freedom is not doing whatever I want. It is the freedom to live according to truth, to flourish as God designed us. Virtue makes this possible. It aligns our desires with reason, and reason with God's eternal wisdom. This is why the saints radiate joy. Their lives may include suffering, but they are deeply happy in God. For perfect happiness is not in wealth, honor, or pleasure. It is in the vision of God, the eternal possession of the infinite good. Here on earth, we live imperfect happiness, growing in virtue and tasting God's presence. In heaven, happiness will be complete. This hope gives meaning to every struggle. Even suffering united to Christ becomes a step toward eternal joy. And so, Aquinas calls us to live with vision. Do not aim at lesser goals. Aim at God, the final end of all. If we aim at wealth, it slips away. If we aim at pleasure, it fades. If we aim at fame, it dies with us. But if we aim at God, every other good finds its place, and happiness becomes eternal. This is why virtue is so crucial. It is not just self-discipline, it is the training ground of heaven. The virtues prepare the soul to see God face to face and to rejoice forever in His presence. So the moral life is not about limits. It is about becoming who we were made to be, friends of God, radiant with joy. Every choice matters. Every act of virtue builds eternity into us. Every act of sin pulls us away from joy. This is why confession, prayer, and community are vital supports for virtue. They keep us on the road to beatitude. And this is why grace is essential. We cannot climb to heaven by effort alone. God lifts us as a father lifts his child. He gives us the theological virtues, faith, hope, and love, so that our lives are anchored in Him, and our joy rests in eternity. So let us live wisely, let us train in virtue, and keep our eyes fixed on God. This is Aquinas' message. Virtue leads to happiness, and happiness is union with God. To live without virtue is to live restless. To live with virtue is to live free. To live with God is to live forever. This is not theory. It is the practical roadmap for your life, drawn by one of the greatest minds of faith. So the question is, what are you aiming at? What kind of life are you training for? If you train in virtue, if you walk with Christ in grace, your end will be eternal joy. If you found this teaching helpful, subscribe for more insights from Aquinas and share this video with a friend. Together, let us learn from St. Thomas. Together, let us grow in virtue. Together, let us walk toward true happiness. For virtue is the path, happiness is the goal, and God is the eternal reward. This is why virtue leads to happiness. This is the wisdom of St. Thomas Aquinas, and this is the path to eternal joy.